player to reach 500 is? That was a good question.
We will find out eventually.
UI has like the blankest stare on his face.
He does. He's in the zone right now. Like, we shouldn't even get him out of it. What kind of style do you think we can expect from EG here? Because I mean, Sumail is known to play very aggressive, but how do you think it's going to be with the whole team?
I think EG especially exemplified bend don't break.
Yeah.
Early game, Sumail, yeah, he can have a bit of a rough start. Things can kind of go wrong. Maybe Universe dies once or twice, but at the same time, it just feels so difficult. What's the formula to beat them? Universe always gets farmed somehow and always makes impact around the map. Fear just seems consistent. Like, he will always get the necessary farm, and he always knows when to fight. And it just feels like the support duo especially know how to get every little bit off of the map. AUI just completely devours farm. PPD is perfectly okay with not getting anything.
That guy right there on screen. It is silly to me how much better he is right now than any other offlaner in the game. He's sitting there at a 4.23 KDA. And just to give you an idea, that is right behind Burning and right ahead of How among all pro players. There's no other offlaner that's even close. I mean, when you called him a consistent performer, to me, he's a consistent performer in the role that it is hardest to be consistent in. And there's the other guy that we've talked about, by the way, Sumail, who has just burst onto the scene. The one thing, there are two things I think you need to talk about when you talk about beating EG, okay? One of them is Sumail's hero. Since DAC, Sumail is 5-3 on SF. He's 5-0 on Zeus. He's 4-0 on Storm. EG are only 8-5 when he's played any other hero. So I think you have to seriously start thinking about taking those three heroes away from him. The other thing is match time. I think you've got to take EG a little longer. These stats are problematic. The causality isn't clean, but I still think it's significant. EG since DAC, they're 18-2 in 20 to 40 minute matches. They're only 4-6 in 40+ minute matches. And Empire is a team that's comfortable taking the game late.
Yeah, but I mean, MVP managed to like still put that pressure on early on, and Empire was able to deal with it, and they dealt with it pretty well. I mean, apart from the fact that they were behind the first part of the game, but they perfectly fine later on. So yeah, we will see what's going to happen in this very game. And yeah, I think we already talked about Team Empire in a match prior to that, so we're actually going to skip that and head right into the picks and bans. Right. And for that, we're going to head over to our casters.
Thank you very much, Zoe. Yes, Cap and I will be your casters here for the game. Empire going up against Evil Geniuses, a battle which has been played on multiple fields, both here Dota 2 as well as it seems to be Twitter, as both EG and Empire Twitter guys are going ham at each other. That's right, the famous Empire Twitter guy being challenged by an upstart. Kind of the opposite of what it is really in this game, because Evil Geniuses are really the established team that by far the favorite team here for this tournament. But Empire have definitely shown a lot of strength in the past. The question is whether or not they can actually continue to build on that. Like they established, I feel like NIP and Empire are very similar in that regard, in that yes, both of these teams started off pretty early on into the season establishing dominance, right? They showcase, hey, we're a good team. And now as the rest of the teams start kicking into gear, like Cloud9 showing a lot of strength, they're building up more. Evil Geniuses always solid. Team Secret always solid. Like, these other teams, like such as NIP, such as Empire, don't look as good as they used to because everyone else is stepping up their game, right? Yeah. So in which case, Empire really need to solidify, hey, we're not just an online team. We didn't just, come in early on into the season and get our act together. We're here, we're going to stay in the Tier 1 status, and we're going to prove it by taking on Evil Geniuses at LAN. And if they can succeed in this, then they start to answer all the questions. In fact, I think a lot of the teams can look at this as far as their TI5 proving ground. Because EG is attending this event, because they are the one of the top two teams in the Western scene, if you can win that, then that goes a hell of a long way for boosting up your rep, especially do it on a LAN. Like, you can win these games online, but if you can win this at LAN, that's what it's all about. And I'm very happy to see. In fact, the crowd's going to applaud it as well. Troll Wildlord, get the hell out of here. Yep, no troll, no sniper. It is a perfect game, Toby. I think that is exactly what everyone wants to see. We're actually going to see an inventive draft now coming up. Resolution's the first one with a pick, so We'll see how he wants to set the tone for this. Also note, too, that Empire, they did ban out the Chen. So they don't want to have this timely push that can come out, which the Chen has really been allowed to enable. Like, he enables teams to do so. You grab these creeps very early on because you don't have to require yourself to wait until you're level 5 before you can have multiple creeps. So now the early pressure onto the towers comes a lot quicker with the Chen, but he won't be allowed in this one. Instead, Team Empire open up exactly the same way as they did up against MVP. They start with the Zeus.
And that's kind of interesting to me solely because I was really expecting like a standard resolution here, especially since that first game they showed their strength, like SF resolution. Super confident about that one. I thought they would have started off with a very confident pick in that. Instead, they go for the Zeus, right? Which is still very, very heavy in the meta right now. We talked about it before, how he's a very highly valued hero, whether he is actually being run in the mid, sometimes being run as a support, or even very rarely being run in the off lane, right? He's at least versatile in that regard. He just gives you so much strength thanks to the vision, the free vision they're able to get out of that one. But oh, there it is, guys. Sumail is going to be having the Storm Spirit. I don't know how I feel about this one, Toby.
Really? I know exactly how I feel about this one.
I don't know how I feel about for Team Empire. Like, giving up the Storm.
I would feel really sad for Team Empire, but remember, you are still picking up the Storm very early on. I doubt Team Empire. Like, Resolution was saying it during his chat with Zoe. Like, you've prepared yourself to play up against EG. You know what they're going to pick. This is no real surprise here. You grab a Storm, you got a Vengeful Spirit, you got a couple of ways to get out of this one, but at the same time, Team Empire open up with a hero which can jump into support that can give a large amount of burst damage. You can control from this point on with your other heroes. Even if you're going to start picking yourself up Doombringer, you look for the Skywrath Mage. Silencer is a hero which has always been put side by side with the name of the Team Empire lineup. So you got a lot of options. You can be prepared for this, and I'm fairly certain Resolution does have some kind of plan.
Only one loss from the Sumail Storm Spirit. One loss, Toby. I mean,
maybe this could be number 2. This is...
It could be, but I also love
it's a whole new world, man.
That's true. I love the support. I see what you did there, Toby. I love the support that they pair with the Vengeful Spirit, right? Because the Vengeful Spirit pickup ensures that while there is no Batrider possible for Empire, there were other potential really strong disablers versus Storm Spirit. I think Disruptor is one that you can definitely ping as being, you need to counter the Storm Spirit heavily this game, right? You can't just afford to be like, oh, we'll gank him once in the early game and that'll be that, right? You have to actually address him constantly throughout the game because Sumail is too strong of a Storm Spirit, right? So you go for something like Disruptor, or maybe you go pick up some sort of Orchid hero.
The problem
or
is
like
if you get a Disruptor, you don't have enough straight control coming out, because if this is going to be a support Zeus and you're running Disruptor as well, sure, you might have the Lightning Brothers, but it's not really an electric combination. You need to have these extra stuns, you need to have that extra control over the Storm Spirit, which means you got to then get that out of your course, which doesn't really function, especially with the Shadow Fiend, because Shadow Fiend is this, I pump out a whole bunch of damage. If Requiem Souls can connect on the Storm Spirit before he jumps away, then sure, you've probably done enough damage to get the kill, but it's not guaranteed.
The point being, though, that the control heroes that would be good versus Storm Spirit, Vengeful Spirit is very good at counteracting, right? Because if the Storm Spirit is caught, then you have that defensive swap out, saves the Storm Spirit, he lives through the Orchid, or he's able to get out of that Static Storm, but whatever control they try and go for the Storm, and then he's able to re-enter the battle solely because of the fact that that's how Storm Spirit works, right? He's such a mobile hero that he can get back in. So not only is Vengeful Spirit just a strong support throughout the meta, but I think it very specifically helps preemptively deal with whatever counters they come up with in the Storm Spirit. Now, SF is definitely a strong pickup. Obviously, Resolution, playing that hero, super strong. But also, it's really good versus Storm Spirit. If you're able to get ahead in the early game, you can get yourself that quick Eul Scepter, maybe even a Blink, and that is a straight counter to Storm Spirit, right? Because he's not a hero that wants to go for the fast BKB, and he's super squishy. You can just blow him up with the Eul Scepter, Blink on top, pop the ultimate, and it one-shots the Storm Spirit, hopefully. Like, that's going to be the best play for Team Empire. But I would say they really need some early roaming potential. I would immediately flag the Earthshaker for Team Empire. I think they need to have that kind of roaming potential to sit on that Storm in the early laning phase, and also make sure that the SF gets that farm to get the fast Eul.
But you could play a different way of this game, because, you know, like with the last game we saw Zeus and Shadow Fiend, they both build into Eul Scepters, and the timing wouldn't be too bad to counteract the Orchid or the Storm Spirit if that's the choice he wants to go for. So if Team Empire wanted to play more of the money game, you could pick up something more like an Enigma, and then you've got your full control no matter what's going to happen. If you get an early Blink Dagger, you'll have to go go a little bit more aggressive to do it, but you can farm up a mech and a blink dagger in a reasonable amount of time. Then you look for your black hole control on the Storm Spirit. You can go for that kind of thing. I know you're up against Vengeful Spirit, it's probably not the greatest choice in the world, but you could try and play the money and timing game instead up against EG. Just don't leave it too late. As Nahaz was saying, though, the late game is a bit of a perilous place for EG in recent times, so maybe it's not a bad place for Empire to go to, but they have to stay toe-to-toe. Now they're up against a Juggernaut. It's one of the most favorite carries out there. Very easy to win with. All you got to do is just basically hit R and click hero, and you're looking pretty good. Beyond that, EG, they're still pretty open with their draft. I don't see much of a problem for them at the moment.
My concern here is Empire doing something a little bit kind of interesting with their draft. They pick up the Zeus and the Shadow Fiend, right? Traditionally speaking, the SF will be your mid. So does, like, Zeus is traditionally in the mid lane as well. So in which case, who's going to be going somewhere else, right? Is the SF still taking over the middle lane versus the Storm Spirit, and then they have rotating heroes to make sure he does really well. He farms up the jungle, carries the game. But where does the Zeus go from there? Is that a support Zeus? Is that an off-lane Zeus?
It's the same Zeus as we saw coming out from Empire and Kane of 1 up against MVP. You come into the mid, you do as much damage as you can and make sure Shadow Fiend can secure the early souls, and then head to the off lane. Run a dual off lane. Now, if you look at the lineup, however, which we're now seeing drafted up, like, a lot of them were banned out. You took out both the Beastmaster and the Slaughter, so the rotations of the Zeus won't be anywhere near as effective. He can't function the same way he did before with the Beastmaster, but you still need to give something to that off lane to make sure that the Juggernaut doesn't just feel safe enough that he can...
Ooh.
Okay, so if you can't get
That's a dangerous
Beastmaster
one.
Roar, just have the Morphling Roar instead. This is actually fine. This is completely fine. Ichi getting a kill on this off lane isn't going to happen with the Vengeful Spirit. Magic Missile is not going to be effective up against the Morphling, and the Juggernaut Spin also won't be effective up against him. He's got escape mechanisms. Unless they catch him with his waveform down, they should be okay.
That was, yeah, I think that was a great pickup. I mean, it's so good in the laning phase, as you pointed out. It's super strong disable-wise up against heroes like Storm Spirit and Juggernaut, who are overly dependent, right, on, well, Storm Spirit mobility. Juggernaut, obviously, whether it's Omni Slash or his actual spin to keep him magic immune, he doesn't want to be locked down at all. The Morphling's going to be able to provide that instant disable that is such a long duration. We've seen the Morphling in the past take over games like that, not necessarily through carrying the game all by himself, but just simply setting up such easy kills. If he's able to get that maxed out, like the maxed out 440 or 441 build, right, and be able to get that maxed out stun into play, have a little bit of nuke damage out from the waveform, and then also be able to pick up an early blink dagger. I mean, that kind of initiation is just unstoppable. It's practically instant. So I think the Morphling was such a smart pickup from Team Empire. I'm loving where their draft is going now that I see both the Lion and the Morphling solid counters to the Storm Spirit, and Evil Geniuses, while they take away another disabler there, they deal with the axe.
Yeah, so if you remove him out of the field, it also means Team Empire don't have a way they can just jump into the jungle nice and easily, even though the Shadow Fiend's probably looking to farm most of that up.
And
but
nobody controls the Juggernaut. Like, they have no disable to go through the spin TP out, which is pretty important. It means the Juggernaut can play split pushing a lot more aggressively.
But remember, we're still looking for a #1 position for Empire. Like, so you can still grab someone that's got the potential to have that bash. I don't know if we're going to go into something more like a lifesteal with his, if he can get into a basher at time with the armlet combination. That might be one way the Team Empire can run with it. But yeah, they do need to find something that pierces magic immunity.
You know, I like the idea, honestly. The way they played it, I would have loved to seen a Slardar pick up again for Team Empire. Silent playing that one. I think that would have been the kind of hero that creates space for the Shadow Fiend, enables that resolution, gets the good amount of farm going in 25 minutes, and then you have this really solid Blink Initiator that also deals really well. Like the minus armor put onto heroes like Juggernaut, like what is he going to do? If he spins and you put the minus armor on him, right, everyone just right clicks him down at that point in time. Easy, quick kill. You also have the bash percentage chance that could potentially deal with the attempt at a TP out. But Evil Geniuses is going with the Skyrath Mage pickup here. I mean, very solid, works too well with the clockwork. I think that was a very straightforward pick. Nothing too special about
This is kind of what happens when you come to a LAN event and you start drafting like this, and you look at the lineup that was there from EG and their third and fourth ban, as you were saying, like there were great bans out. Actually getting a Wraith King coming up from Team Empire. So solid pick up. We get ourselves another stunner, and also a really problem hero because EG don't have any mana burn beyond Cogs. So you're probably going to get that reincarnation off every single time. Once you're at level 16 over on the Wraith King, you're home and host. Like, that's wonderful. Every 60 seconds, he'd be coming back to life again. And these fights do have the potential to drag on quite heavily.
No, I think that was exactly what they needed there. It was some sort of very aggressive carry that was going to be able to force fights for the rest of the team, right? You've got Zeus and Lion, kind of squishy supports who, you know, can dish out a lot of damage, but aren't necessarily, at least until Lion gets his Blink Dagger, aren't going to be the ones initiating the fight. You have the Morphling who still needs a little bit more, you know, a little bit more time, especially levels are really important for him to be able to enter into the game. If they can all kind of get that Blink Dagger, get Wraith King a Blink Dagger and Blade Mail, I think this is the kind of game where you just take it to Evil Geniuses over and over and over again, and then EG, perhaps with that aggression, may end up falling apart a little bit, and that creates space for Resolution then to be able to finish up his farm and enter in as your big mid to late game carry.
Well, let's get to it, Cap, because we're getting ourselves underway. So Team Empire going up against Evil Geniuses, the home crowd boys. We're actually going to jump in quick, so Telebeach team chat, we have it all set up. I know everyone, they all wanted to hear it, and it's going to come in. So right now, we're going to jump on board with Evil Geniuses just to hear what they have to say at the start of their game.
We're running here.
Getting boss, 1 minute.
Got to the Turtle Beach
Yeah,
in game.
yeah, that was
done.
That was Dota 2.
Yep.
Luckily, it's not fully Dota 2. We're back into the
All
game.
right.
We're back into the game. So let's give it another crack. Back to the Turtle Beach team chat.
There's a line.
Are we getting top room? Yes, top room.
Yeah, top room. I want to stay here and just make sure he doesn't get a word outside.
Okay, it should be fine.
30 seconds to battle.
Bottom.
Alright.
All right, so let's come back to us. We heard a grand total of Owie searching for wards.
Yep. That was
Trying-
some really big insight we gained there, Toby.
And he was trying to stop the ward
Yes.
from being planted.
Yeah, so we did learn at least, like, okay,
didn't
Empire
succeed.
were able to get out the early ward.
Yes,
You know,
they have
Owie-
this thing right here.
Now he doesn't realize that, but
No, he does not.
unfortunately, just due to the nature of pauses, I guess.
He'll probably realize it later on. Okay, so we started again, and we're third time's the charm, Cap. Third time's the charm. So we're going to get back on board with EG for the Turtle Beach team chat.
Good.
I'm not going back to the side count. Darling. I don't see Morph at all. I'm gonna look for him on the side. I don't.
I'm leaving Sumo.
Okay.
Boards are missing. I deny everything. I don't know where the Morphling is. I don't know where Lion is.
They're laughing. He's probably near you.
Hey, he's in the trees, right?
Could be, yeah.
I think he waveformed up.
Oh,
He's in here. He's in here.
We have 2 archers.
Shit. Can you pull?
Yeah.
Oh, that,
Actually,
I can
this
hold
isn't
this
so bad.
here, but that's all he's gonna get.
He's gonna get level 2.
All right, so we get to come back with us as Owie goes to play chicken with the Morphling up on top lane. And, well, in the first 1 minute and 20 seconds, it's been a pretty passive laning phase, apart from the fact that we did see PPD forced out, but it was expected with the Zeus. That was the role of always want to fly in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had PPD like kind of showing his face into the lane, just trying to help out Sumail just a little bit, but inevitably he has to move out, and it's going to be left Sumail versus Resolution in this middle lane. It's definitely going to be, I think this is where we want to keep our eyes for the most part, is this 1v1 battle to really see who comes out on top in CS, because Resolution is not doing so bad. I mean, I don't know if the help of a Zeus gave him a little bit of confidence, but CS-wise, he is keeping in pace with Sumail, and that is a really good start, right? You, as an SF, You need to be able to get those first 4 or 5 last hits to start building up those souls. That way you're not at such a damage lack thereof up against the Storm Spirit, who has null tally first.
It's exactly the same thing as we saw before. Right now, Morphling, the Wave of Terror is going to reveal him. He's in a horrendous position, but luckily there's no magic missile to control him. He has used his waveform, 400 HP. Owie has to go for a bit of a body block. Not going to function, however. TPD with no control. The Morphling will get back with his life. The downside is he has to completely leave the lane, but he doesn't feed First Blood. You can call that an upside right now for Empire.
Yeah, super concerning though. In the off lane here for Evil Geniuses, they're getting a lot for this Clockwork. This is going to be Clockwork that comes online super early with that level 6 and able to make that rotation, which could be, I mean, my first target, Resolution, 100%. Like, got to be able to shut down that SF before it gets too big and helps out the Storm Spirit in the process. So I'm really concerned that Evil Geniuses are getting a lot more out of their off lane, and we're going to see that impact. I mean, Universe is such a strong, impactful off laner that I could definitely see him just kind of taking over the game with this early levels he's allowed to get.
At the same time, I don't think Empire are too concerned about that. They know Universe is going to be a problem. He always plays an amazing off lane. You give him Darkseer or Clockwork, and you already just fear for your life. So you try and do it another way. If you fear for your life, have a second. And Wraith King is going to try and move up very quickly in these levels. That's the reason why I'm fairly certain this Glove of Haste is going to turn into a Hand of Midas.
Absolutely.
He needs to get level 16. He needs to be that big factor coming into the fight. So if Fear wants to blow his Omni Slash on him, be happy to do it. Like, don't give a crap about it, because you're going to be able to get in there and do a large amount of damage. You level up a crit. That's actually what he went for the next time. And now he's checked the same corner again. He does not have Seal, though. So waveform away is doable. Yeah, but I don't think Empire are too worried. This is what I was talking about during the drafting phase, where Empire is more looking for the timing against EG, as opposed to let's win on all lanes. However, this could be big. Sumail's in trouble. There's one more raise, but it's only the short range one. The Storm Spirit's still going to go down. PPD couldn't arrive in time. You realize it's onto Low Dance wouldn't have done anything because it was the SF who was dealing the damage.
The little rabbit turned into a frog, and Resolution walking away the first blood. That's a huge start, right? Being able to get that huge burst of gold, and then on top of that, just establish your dominance further in the laning phase, because you now have your level 3 nukes and soon to be level 4 that you're just going to be able to burst down the waves. And this is the big thing, right? Evil Geniuses won't be able to gank Shadow Fiend very easily, because he's just going to burst down the wave real quickly, double raise, back out to the jungle, and farm that
Universe, he's in a lot of trouble on bottom, but not enough to find the kill. And now always want to fly in silent too far out. Now he's going to TP in. Always want to fly. He's just too squishy as this Zeus. Universe wants to walk in and get the kill. In fact, I think Owie was trying to give it to him, but then a low hard dance. Support will arrive. Will the Hex? He'll need one more attack to do it. And Universe, he gives him the space to do it. There's no more stun out from the Wraith King. Obviously, this guy's got a horrendous mana pool. That it ends up being a 1-1 trade on this bottom lane.
This is what I love. I love watching Aloha dance as a support. I think that he is one of the better, like, they usually play this kind of style where Always Want to Fly is usually sitting in the safe lane, just kind of pulling and do whatever he can. It's Aloha Dance who does the solo movement around.
He's actually dead again. Silent gets the crit just at the right time. Aloha Dance finishes the job. But without that crit, they wouldn't have got the kill onto Universe.
His rotation catches out Sumail in the middle lane. Now he catches out 2 different kills in the bottom lane. He's going to be level 6 nice and early. Aloha Dance, for me, like we talked about Resolution a lot when we were breaking down this team, but Aloha Dance has the potential to set up the early game so well, and it seems Team Empire really know what they're doing here in this matchup against Evil Geniuses. Good rotation so far. Their off-laner still behind, of course. Funnick, not much he can really do about that. He's not going to die, but he's going to be constantly forced away by EG. But at least their supports are committing a lot of time to keep him out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I still find it absolutely hilarious because, like, PPD originally... Okay, now this is a big opening because they got help coming in from Owie 2000. This will be a kill for EG. They bring down the off-lane Morphling. But we heard Owie talking before on the Turtle Beach team chat. He didn't know this Observer Ward went down. So the entire time the Morphling's been able to freely move up and down, and it wasn't until PPD got attacked as he was moving up around this area that they really flagged onto the fact of, wait, I think they got the ward down beforehand. But that was 1-2 minutes before the ward was timing out.
Right.
So they don't really achieve much by getting that, but now they're going to realize why things were just a little bit more elusive on that top lane.
I think it is really important that Evil Geniuses, they're shutting down their supports. They're basically sacrificing their own levels to be able to keep out the Morphling. I think this is important, right? The Morphling is such an impactful offlaner that because the long duration of that stun, some would say even overpowered, it's just too good to let the offlaner get that for free. So I think it's the right decision that they're making. Unfortunately, That smoke not working out for him.
Yeah, and they only just used it as well. They managed to walk a grand total of like maybe 500 units. And then came in range of just Morphling coming down. It wasn't really something you could predict. It's 7 minutes, so he's not coming down for a rune. He's not at the top lane, so you just wonder what he's really up to. But he's up to farming up the mid, because this is the right timing for the SF to go into the jungle. So they tag team off the Morphling, they find him levels in the mid, while the SF flash farms inside of his own jungle. At the same time, now that SF does this, your Hand of Midas has arrived over on Silent. He's already level 6, and surprisingly enough, he actually decided to level up the reincarnation instead of waiting it out for an opportune moment.
Yeah, this is something that I think the professional player that really brought this to mind for me was Zai, right? When he used to play the 4 position Wraith King, he said, you know, I don't level reincarnation because what happens if I'm in a bad position and I die and I'm just going to die again? Well, I would rather keep my reincarnation, which is such a long cooldown, so I don't even level it up in that case. I just accept my death and I have it for later. I have that reincarnation still. Aloha Dance, I was wondering if he was actually going to invest into the Tranquil Boots, which are obviously the most common picked up boots for Lion, just because he doesn't need the mana regeneration thanks to Mana Drain, or if he was going to try and go for that quick Blink Dagger. But he did go back for the Tranquil Boots, just gives him even more roaming power. I think he's waiting for his level 6, and then they're probably going to rotate to the middle lane, try and continue to go for that Storm Spirit, especially now they have a hero sitting in the middle lane that provides his own disable, right? They can actually rotate, just get close to the middle lane, and then Morphling just goes ahead and out of nowhere, pops that adaptive strike onto the Storm Spirit. He's stunned for a while, and the rest of the supports walk in.
Bottom lane, looks like they committed pretty heavily. The reincarnation is going to trigger it from Silent, but Aloha Dance has managed to find level 6 by 8.5 minutes into the game, which means the Finger of Death will execute Universe on the off lane. EG do get a trade-off. Initially, they were the ones I was actually watching, because PPD rotated in through the secret shop and was trying to find that one hero that would TP up to stop the tower from going down. If they don't TP, you take tier 1 tower. If they TP, you combine with Magic Missile and Omni Slash to ensure a kill.
Honestly, I think Universe is completely fine with that, right? Double ultimates being used for that kill, and it creates there's a lot less pressure now on the Storm Spirit, knowing that Finger of Death is not up. That heavy amount of burst damage would completely counter the Storm. I also love this movement from them.
Unfortunately, Universe doesn't really have great vision. Always want to fly sitting here, and he's not visible in the tree line, and he misses the hookshot on Aloha Dance. Always want to fly sees him in Universe, even if he felt like legging it down the lane. Knowing that Zeus is now in the tree line means he'll never do it. Fear's also waiting for Morphling just to isolate himself. He needs to kill that creep, and now he can Omni Slash, but Morphling making the right decision. Makes a replicate, so Fear cannot use Omni Slash now. Or either that or waste it. Universe on bottom lane, he's in more trouble. Turn into a frog with the Wraithfire. Hellfire Blast are able to slow and stop him down.
And I love this, right? The Storm Spirit, like, he's not quite ready to go in, but sometimes you see Storm Spirits like rotate to the off lane, with the off laner having their level 6, and they go for an early aggressive kill thanks to Bolt Lightning giving you so much mobility. And because that's a possibility for EG, they're not going for it, but it is a possibility. Early grouping up is the right call here, right?
They're
You
about
can
to
take
fight
the
this.
early towers.
Now he's in a position where he's looking to either deny this tower or fight it, but with Resolution having a haste rune, that can cast a shot from Aoi, does absolutely nothing. Raises, and there it is again with the Hellfire Blast. We go 6-3, and it's pickoff after pickoff coming in the lanes, and this will result in a tier 1 tower going down. And Sumail can't push fast enough to really make that middle lane take any kind of damage. Not in time, at least.
I will never criticize AUI because I think he's just too good of a player to really make any call-outs. I'm just not sure what his thought process was there, because I really don't think Evil Geniuses were going to mass TP to fight that tier 1 tower.
Yeah.
It's an off-lane tower. They can afford to give it up, and it would have been too dangerous of a fight. So, and maybe he's just trying to get that soaking experience. It got a little greedy.
And because Fear's already used the Omni Slash, he wasn't going to TP in and then go to town with them. So it's one of these things where now EG, they realize they got to go into a bit more of a recovery mode, trying to stack. They failed on the side camp, but it's going to be flash farming up Sumail. They need to get his Orchid up and running so he can jump, he can find these pickoffs and get back out again. Actually, Cap, do you think this is an Orchid game, or would you prefer to actually see a Bloodstone or a BKB? Because there's a lot of disables.
It is definitely a Bloodstone game in my mind, solely because of the fact that I don't think it does much to counter Empire. First of all, SF is a great hero versus Storm Spirit and the early Orchid, because either one of your builds is strong versus the Storm, right? You go the Yule's BKB build, double counters versus Orchid, or you go for the mech build, which is a pseudo counter versus Orchid, Orchid because it adds that extra bit of HP that allows you to survive through the burst. Even if you do take the Orchid damage, it's the mech that still manages to keep you alive. Generally speaking, Empire also with this mech will be able to win team fights because they have such an early sustain advantage thanks to that mech. They can afford to 4 or 5 ban into towers, and the Storm Spirit can't really do much about that. He's pretty bad at early 5-man team fights. He needs to be able to build up a huge amount of mana regen before he's successful.
They're going to jump. This is actually really well read by EG. They realize Silent doesn't have his reincarnation back up again. This is a very simple kill. You require the TP in from Sumail, but they take out the Wraith King, and they had all the vision in the world. With this dire Observer Ward up, they realized that there was no support players from Empire sitting behind that could cause any kind of like rebuttal. Also means the rotation in from Fear. He's going to be able to take out that Ancient Stack with the Mask of Madness. That's the Yasha done for him. Fear is looking fantastic as far as his farm goes.
Yeah, I mean, he's keeping up with the SF, which is hugely important. SF is a hero that needs to be able to stay ahead of the enemy carries in order to really be truly effective, truly be a dominant force. Even going super late game, you just have to stay ahead in net worth. Well, Juggernaut's keeping up. I'm really concerned, though. Aloha Dance. Look at that net worth. He's 5th on the board. He already has his Blink Dagger 12.5 minutes in. That is insanely fast on
It's because he took the 3 kills. With a Finger of Death, he was able to kill Secure over on the Clockwork. And at the same time, I'm a little concerned that like the Wraith King's falling behind because of this. Like Fear is 1.2k in front of him because he can't find these last hits. It all goes to supports, and I'm not against this because with the Blink Dagger as well as Tranquil Boots, the line is going to pay tenfold for everything he's taken away from the Wraith King. Yeah, but it has to work.
As we talked about before on the analysis desk, right? Resolution is playing more of the full.
Blink to point blank range, into the Hex, Finger of Death, and Adapted Strike. And this is now the 4th kill for the Lion.
I mean, Sumail's just going to have such a hard time this game. With the Blink Dagger Lion, that's already such a strong counter. But then you have the Morphling, who is a natural counter as well. Yeah. And then you have, you know, just like good, relatively tanky. Like, you can't go for the SF. He has a mech. At least you can't go by the SF by yourself as a Storm Spirit. You can't go for the Wraith King because he has reincarnation. So really, your free pickoff is maybe the Zeus.
Silent. Is he going to have a look? He's too late. EG have been so quick about this, and you'll actually notice too, I was going to flank at the time, but you're having a nice little chat. But Fear left 2 of the Ancients behind, so PPD could kill them off and have enough money to buy them Medallion of Courage. They could just slip themselves in, take Roshan, take the Aegis, the Immortal, and this will now give a huge advantage to EG in the next engagement, if they can find one, of course.
Right, the Medallion is so important to be able to counteract. Not only does it sneak in Roshan, right, but it also counteracts some of the strength of the Empire heroes. Like, first of all, you get a lot of armor out of mechs.
Free gold.
Yeah.
Free gold.
Free kill.
Yup. Lion not great up against ninjas with swords.
Fear's definitely getting quite big, but going back to it, Resolution's playing more of the hard carry role for Empire, right? So I think the more fair comparison is going to be Resolution versus Juggernaut's farm, and then the Wraith King versus the Storm Spirits, because those are your two
shot.
Oh, nice response!
Matt Morphling was prepping for this the entire time, but now in comes Sumail. There's no control over on him. While he doesn't have the Orchid, he's probably going to be able to 4-1 shortly after this. He's going for, well, he's out of the BKB and ended up selling it halfway through this. But PPD, the next target, starts staying in close. There is a little bit of damage coming out from the Ascetic Remnants in the universe. Going to buy some space with the cogs so they can't chase it down. PPD's got enough cooldown. The Thunder God's Wrath will fly out. One charge is keeping PPD up high enough. He's going to swap out Fear. Trying to save him. He's going to be successful. Silent. He will finally drop, but Fear puts up the healing ward, and that is well worth it. You just took out 2 cores too, because it's the Shadow Fiend plus the Wraith King that ended up dropping.
Yeah, they simply didn't think that Evil Geniuses would respond with so many heroes to that middle lane, right? They had the Morphling there to respond to 1 or 2 hero ganks, but with that 3rd hero entering into the battlefield there, Evil Geniuses just quickly overrun the SF, and they can't afford to do that. I think that was a big misplay there from Empire, not grouping up more heroes in that middle lane if they're going to go for a push like that.
I'm actually wondering if that was totally worth it, like, because I didn't take into account the fact that the Aegis the Immortal was sitting on top of the Juggernaut. So the PPD, I don't want to say threw away his life for nothing, because it was still a rather fresh Aegis, so you're going to have more time to use this later in the Aegis timing.
I think it's absolutely worth it. Even if they do end up running out of time with the Aegis, it just means, like, Fear was already able to push pretty aggressively because he can spin TP out, but now he doesn't even fear
trouble,
Lion.
jump in, perfect hook shot. The Steel's going to go over on top of the Zeus, so we can't let any of this damage out. The Finger of Death, though, so brutal up against him. And then the swap up, PPD goes to work. Lion's going to be dragged in. It's a triple kill for Owie 2000. Yes, you are important, Owie. A triple kill for him, and this is going to skyrocket him up into potentially Yule Scepter or more.
And again, Empire just not bringing as many heroes to the fight. It was a 3 versus 4, Evil Geniuses. Even if Empire is strong with that mech up on the SF, he's the first target. They blow him up before he gets any raises out. You're not going to win that fight every single time. Empire are choosing to try and be a bit more greedy in this 15-minute transitional period, right, where you can afford to either 5-man group or split up everywhere and farm.
Yep.
And they're trying to be just too greedy with their strategy, right? They're 3-man pushing top or 3-man pushing middle, and also trying to farm up on the Morphling and the Wraith King. If they want to farm up on the Morphling and the Wraith King, I think they got to sit back, you know, and just let them farm up, wait for the Morphling and Silent to be ready to fight, and then go full 5-man. But they're definitely losing a lot of ground to Evil Geniuses much quicker than I anticipated.
This just kind of feels a little bit like the problem when they're in the MVP game. There's just space opening up because of like Empire's positioning. EG is definitely forcing the issue, but it seems like they keep finding these opportunities a lot more. I'm also interested to see the fact that Juggernaut, Fear, decided to build into Amanda style. While this might help him dodge the Wraithfire Blast, it's probably not going to help him that much up against a hero like Lion.
Well, I think it gives you like a lot of split pushing potential. It also gives you a very early, like, decent stat item. I would have guessed he would have been going for the SNY, as it's such a stereotypical mid-game item.
That's what everyone's been doing. It's like SNY, you look to the sky, he just gets stats, so you just tank through everything.
Right, but at the same time, he can push down towers so quickly thanks to Mask of Madness and now the Manta that they don't necessarily need to contest Empire at all. Like, they can actually buy so much time purely through split pushing at this point that you'll be able to get Sumail back in the game. Like, Sumail has been completely shut out because he did go for that Orchid build, and I think he's so heavily countered by the Lion and everything else that with such a squishy, like very offensive item build like this, of course he's going to die to anything that ever catches him, right? So I think they just need to buy time for Sumail to get his BKB and do that without forcing team fights so much. I mean, they've done well in the last couple engagements, but Empire, you know, I think they've been slapped down twice in a row. They're not going to get slapped down a third time.
They're coming to fight. That's a TP already coming in, trying to hold Fear in position. With a Thunder God strat, they see 4 players from EG, or 3 players from EG sitting behind, and Sumail too far away. If he jumps in, he doesn't have a mana pool to really keep continuing to fight. But Empire want to do this. They just got a fresh BKB on the SF. The Aegis reclaims now. So Fear has just lost his immortality. Morphling, where's his smoke break? Morphling, whoa! He just walked into the trees and... well, that's the one time you don't want to listen to HY. Rabbit jumping back to where the Tier 1 tower used to be, as in our little Rabbit, Sumail. And, okay, poor
Resolution,
SF.
he got swapped out, right? The level 2 swap from the Vengeful Spirit has been so impactful this game. He got it so early, found that pick off in the support in the top lane, just got the SF as well. The swap seems to be catching Empire out of sorts. They're being very disorganized in the way they choose these fights. I think Funnick just naturally assumed that, oh, the Juggernaut's going into the jungle for him to be able to TP out, but all of Evil Geniuses lay a very clever trap, and Funnick just walks right into it.
I'll try not doing that next time, huh? But once he's got the Yulsa drop and running, there's a lot more to play around with. So if he can keep vision, just become the control factor. That's all we were really searching for. And that's what all anyone really searches for from the Morphling. It's the high level strength adaptive strike to get a long duration stun into a Yule Scepter as well. And there's only maybe 1.5 seconds worth of downtime between the Yule Scepter coming off cooldown and your adaptive strike stun wearing off. So you buy time for the rest of your teammates to come in. You're the control factor, you're not the initiator, you're not a clockwork. So you play it a little bit differently than the conventional initiating offlaners.
The Rod of Aoi, right there. Skywrath Mage picks up the Rod of Atos. That's a huge pickup. It works so well with Skywrath Mage. It gives him now solo kill potential against a number of these heroes, right? The Morphling until he gets Yule Scepter is a potential kill if he's low enough on HP at the time. The Zeus and the Lion are both very critical pickoffs, and even the Wraith King. You may be able to take down that reincarnation from range just purely out of that support, thanks to that Rod of Atos setup.
Yeah, because it allows the Mystic Flare to his full damage. Aloha Dance has to help out his teammate as Sumail finger and Dead's going to nail him again. The damage, the Morphling will waveform up and finish the job, but they're going to lose 2 for the kill on the Storm. Now, they have shut down Sumail so heavily, but at what cost?
Oh, it's been a very heavy cost, Toby. I mean, Team Empire have given up so many, like, 2-for-1 specials. Evil Geniuses are just gobbling up, man. They are just a versatile enough team, and I'm sure PPD is, like, just telling Sumail, hey, don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it, because we've got Fear, and he's getting bigger and bigger. He's going to show it right here in this middle lane.
Oh, man, you gotta love a crit. And, well, Wraith King hopes for one of himself, but you actually saw Fear PPD want to swap him. It's only a short-range swap, but Fear preemptively moved back closer towards the creep wave, ready for the swap.
Yeah, and that was also beautiful. He was able to just like Manta and real quickly dodge the bit of death animation from the Wraith King, so he wasn't even slowed down by that as well. It's the Evil Geniuses are actually showcasing that they don't need, like, even when they pick up a Storm Spirit, right, they don't need Sumail to take over the game, because the enemy team is going to force so many resources to shutting him down that they'll leave themselves incredibly exposed to the rest of Evil Geniuses. Universe, Fear, the two cores are getting very big, especially Fear, who is still very far ahead of the SF. The fastest farming carry, I would say, going into the mid game is actually being trounced by a Juggernaut, which is still a very fast farming hero, but it's primarily because he's died so many times and Fear is just getting free kills everywhere he goes.
And he keeps getting stacks. This is now the second time we've seen him mop up an Ancient stack. And because of it, like, you kind of hit the nail perfectly on the head. Sumail, they keep trying to kill him off. Everyone's fearful of it. But, and Universe as well, like, he hasn't even been really a main factor. The silent deadly person has been the Juggernaut. He's now level 16, under 23 minutes. Like, it's taking him 23 minutes to hit level 16. He's about to finish up a full Skadi as well. And with this, Empire don't have enough damage to kill him. Even Wraith King, who is probably your only primary damage dealer, unless you're going to take into account the magical damage coming out from Aloha Dance as well as from Always Wanna Fly. That'll be some nice burst damage, but still, how much that really removed from you without then having to rely on the crits coming out from Silent. And his damage output is okay. Like, he managed to pick up a Maelstrom, he's got the attack speed with it, the Blink Dagger so he can jump and initiate straight away, and the Morphling could control. But we're still talking about a situation where Empire throw everything they've got to kill the Juggernaut, which then gives the space to Sumail. But everything they have is normally thrown onto Sumail.
Very standard setup by most Dota teams, but you're going to see the initiators here in the top lane teleport to the tier 2 in anticipation of being able to defend the tier 1. If Empire actually forced that a little bit harder.
Empire read it perfectly. They put down just the fresh Observer Ward that saw the rotation happen. So they don't find anything here, and they realize that's a replicate on top. They were just baited perfectly by Empire.
Yeah, but they bought themselves time. I mean, I don't really think time is to the favor of Empire. They went for this very aggressive teamfight build, right, with Silent picking up the Blink Dagger after the Midas and trying to be the initiator. That way they can have Resolution, then follow that up with all of his amazing right-click damage and the sustained offered by the mech. That was supposed to be a 15 to 25-minute teamfight winner.
Yep.
But that point is definitely fallen by as Evil Geniuses have built more and more of a gold lead. It's now going to be, you're going to see these items start falling by the wayside in Empire, who are scrambling to be able to make recoveries, right? Silence trying to now go for a farming item in the Maelstrom. Very strong pickup, especially if you can get the Mjolnir, but is it really going to outdo the Storm Spirit and the Juggernaut once they hit full swing? I don't think so. That Orchid's really going to start paying off. While I was skeptical of an Orchid pickup for the Storm Spirit in the first place, once you get the BKB, it definitely pays off this game. It was just a question of the Orchid first by itself, was it going to be good enough for Sumail? Well, Evil Geniuses just read that and go, well, we can get the Orchid, we just have to stay away from fights, even though we have that offensive item.
It's also confidence in your own team that they can hold the line until that point.
Right.
So you realize, okay, yeah, I can achieve this, and we won't lose too much, or if we do, it's still worthwhile the trade. We still hit our timing for the attacks. And this is now another time where I've seen EG take a tower completely uncontested. Empire just don't want any kind of bar of it. They want to keep farming up. The Wraith King's still not level 16 yet, and it looks like we're starting into... is this going to be BKB?
It's probably going to be BKB, yes.
Okay, because there's no way it could be a Desolator. There's no way.
Yeah, he can't afford to be controlled that much, so the Mjolnir, it's not a surprise that the Mjolnir is a later pickup. He may not even complete it, depending on how this game goes. If they actually make some sort of recovery, he may choose to go more typical carry items.
He won't have time to finish up anything. EG have realized just how strong they can push, and Empire, like, they started making a motion towards bottom lane to try and go for the push that would force EG to come back, but because EG had pushed so fast, they never had any time. By the time they reached the lane, they had to leave the lane. And this tower, down to 2/3 of its HP, they're looking fantastic.
Yeah, once you complete that big stat item, the Skadi on the Juggernaut, now that Manta really starts paying out big dividends, as those illusions are pretty tanky, and they're all not only going to be able to dish out a decent amount of damage, especially like squishy immobile supports, but also...
Ooh, Empire. Yeah, you don't want to come out for this one. I think they might have almost been hoping that Sumail was going to jump them, but because Sumail's had such a hard time this game, there's no way he's going to move into that. And because they got the Static Remnant, there's no way to easily move out. With the Invis Rune 2 from Universe, They've got a lot to play around with. Now, Silent's going to jump down. He's looking for the kill on Aoi. Aloha Dance is right behind him. He goes for the stun, will be successful, but in comes Sumail. Gets the Orchid up, so there's no Finger of Death in for this fight. He'll pop from the Orchid. Now with the Mystic Flare, Silent losing so much fight, but the Cogs! They pushed him back down again into the remainder of the Mystic Flare. They control the Wraith King, and perfect kill combo from EG. They bring down the Wraith King, they bring down the Lion. And with that, they can just walk towards mid and take mid racks.
Real quickly, I got to give a shout out to PPD. I mean, his ward coverage has been amazing. That was the whole entire reason that that fight would look so easy for Evil Geniuses. Because while they executed it brilliantly, right? Universe separating the team. They also had that bit of a lead on AUI, kind of baiting out the supports downriver and everything else. That was all set up because the Vision gave them entire time to plan that whole entire thing out. And it's because PPD has put very atypical wards. He hasn't done too many typical wards that countered by Zeus.
Always on a fly, being force-staffed in by Universe. So Ichi can keep the momentum going their way. They know they've already brought down the outside towers. Sumail dropping low, but he's got Aegis Steam also, so he'll be fine. Universe is just waiting for the hookshot line. If they can kill off Resolution here, they know they've basically won this, and they've got him. The hookshot in, the Cogs pushing him back. Aloha Dance dies to Sumail as Resolution has a huge amount of damage into Sumail, who, okay, he just attacked the Cogs on the way back out. But the mid-racks will drop Silent with the stun. Sumail not looking great. There's a Morphling replicate right in front of him. The attack, the adaptive strike. They try and keep him alive, but not going to be enough. And all you can really get in return is, what, a kill and a replicate? Silent needs to keep going with this. A Blink Dagger now back off cooldown. If he blinked over the tree line, he would have actually found Aoi 2000. But doesn't do it. He's too scared that the rest of EG is still waiting on the other side of the tree line.
There is points to be said where you want to be careful not being too over-aggressive there, but I think Empire far enough behind that they just got to go all in, right? They just got to chase that fight as best as possible and hope to pick up the extra kills, because there's not a way you're making this comeback. I mean, they haven't even taken the last tier 1 tower in the top lane yet. It's gotten a little bit low, and they might just get it with Silent backdooring it or something, but it's still, they're amazingly far behind, and now this Manta really paying out big dividends. This is where the Manta becomes so incredibly strong. Like, as an early item, right, the illusions die so quickly, so it's more like going to give you more split push than anything else. But once you get the stats, the illusions start becoming tanky enough to actually be real threats, and then he gets the diffusal blade. So you said, Toby, hey, there isn't much mana burn. They're not going to be able to deal with that reincarnation ever preemptively. Well, now there potentially is with the diffusal blade Manta.
Yeah, and because he can capitalize a little bit, because Silent doesn't have Magic Wand, he doesn't have any like the Soul Ring kind of things you build when you're going up against heroes like Anti-Mage, for example, because you want to be able to just time it right, you get that burst mana up, and that means your reincarnation will trigger. He doesn't have a plan B like that.
Yeah, and Silent isn't particularly far ahead in levels either. He's only level 15, so he hasn't gotten that, like, all those extra stat levels that you get after 16, which really help out your mana pool by quite a bit. When you see, like, the Wraith King get up to, like, level 20, 25, it's really hard to use mana burn to take away the possibility of reincarnation.
Empire. This is an all-in right now to come in from behind. Maybe they can find the opening. The Observer wards are pretty tight, but Universe, he's close enough. They're all going to break. There goes your Thunder God's Wrath with the stun, but that just takes Universe out of the fight. The BKB from the Storm Spirit, they jump in and take out Aloha Dance. Omni Slash as well. Well, where's your target? Fear, he comes out of it and realizes, well, he doesn't kill off anyone. You'll set her up, might save the Morphling for just a moment, but it's still going to be the end of him. Over towards Silent, they get through him twice. This is 3 core heroes, or big heroes down for Empire. And this will be also bottom racks in favor of Ichi.
I don't think you're wrong there in saying 3 cores. I mean, I feel like Aloha Dance really took over the core position when he got that fast Blink Dagger over the Morphling. So him going down was so key. And, like, he's the first target every single fight for Evil Geniuses. Well, swap in the replicate.
That was just a Mana Style illusion, actually, so they didn't even get a replicate down.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't care. Like, right now, EG have so much damage, so much control, that if Empire fight into them, they just end the game quicker. And Empire realize this. They're just buying themselves a little bit of time for maybe when the Wraith King respawns, they can go for one last hurrah. And because the format of the tournament, obviously, it's a best of one, you don't take any kind of risk. Just back yourself up. Roshan potentially spawns up in 10 seconds time from now, so EG, they can just wait for that and then 5-man through top and end this game. And that should be all they need to wait for as well.
Man, Lincoln soon on the AUI Skywrath Mage.
It's a
pretty
quick
insane
spawn.
item progression, and that's going to be super good at being able to protect the Storm Spirit, right? His biggest fear is that he gets blinked, hexed by the Lion. Well, if you're able to have that Lincoln Spear set preemptively on the Storm Spirit instead of keeping it on AUI, then that completely dispels that opportunity for Empire. Like, that's the biggest opportunity is jumping the Storm and killing him first while just trying to disable and kite the Juggernaut around as much as possible. But, I mean, that last smoke gank was really the desperation smoke. Now, the chances of Empire coming back into this game are so very slim. They're going to fight it out anyway, but I don't see really a way for them to get back into this game, Toby.
It's difficult. It would take a miracle, but Dota is the... Okay, is he? Come out of that one. Hook shot in right now, and they're jumping in. Roshan's still going to spawn up in a moment's time. PPD might be controlled, but Resolution sliced apart by Fear. And Universe on the back of the ball. There's only 2 players left alive. Raytheon's going to attempt the TP out in time, and he's unsuccessful. GG is the call. EG will team wipe out Empire. The next Roshan is not even required. And a solid start for them. It might look like Empire had a moment where they could have started off with a lot of momentum into this game, but EG hit home, and Sumail playing decoy, it almost feels like.
Yeah, it seemed like it was about 8 to 10 minute marker there where it was Empire who actually looked kind of good. They were shutting down the Storm Spirit, and it was like, you know, there's so much hype around the Storm Spirit. Oh, wow, they're actually stopping Sumail. Is Fear going to be good enough to be able to carry the team? Well, it turns out that they're actually completely fine with the Storm Spirit being shut down, right?
Yeah.
Evil Geniuses look super solid in the fact that they didn't get flustered by that at all. They just were like, well, we're giving up the Storm Spirit for every other hero on EG. Their success is going to be paramount to just our mid success.
Well, man, it was a wonderful game for EG. They kick off the tournament wonderfully, and let's actually pick apart the game, not ourselves. We have a special panel for just that, so back down to you, Zoe.